I was so mad. I was so mad. I haven't seen it since.
They placed Combs under arrest and lead him out the front door in handcuffs. His lawyer said Combs had come to New York 2 weeks earlier with the intention of turning himself in.
Diddy has been dodging drama for years, but guess what? This time the law finally caught up with him. He has been arrested, put on trial, and denied bail, not once, but twice. The shocking thing is that another big name just got pulled into his mess. Yes, none other than Janet Jackson.
I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable.
Janet's name has now been dragged into Diddy's legal chaos. But how did she end up in this situation? Janet and Diddy go way back in the music scene, crossing paths in more ways than one. So how is their connection causing problems for Janet now? Let's find out. Diddy's crimes. Before we tell you how these two big names are connected, you need to know what crimes Diddy committed that could tie him to Janet. Diddy has been accused of some heavy stuff, like kidnapping, drugging women, and forcing them into sexual acts. This is not just your everyday party scandal, but serious, life-altering accusations. And don't forget the threats of violence and firearms. The stories surrounding Diddy make it clear that we are looking at a pattern of behavior that has been going on for years. And the parties. We all know Diddy loves a good party, but these were not any typical Hollywood blowouts. These were white parties that were as horrible as it can get. For example, the famous birthday bash he threw in 2022 at his $61 million Beverly Hills mansion. The guest list was stacked with stars like Jay-Z, Chris Brown, and Mary J. Blige. It was meant to celebrate his 53rd birthday and his 30 years in the game. People showed up to toast the king of hip-hop, but who knew that this was just the tip of the iceberg? Behind the scenes, things were not so pretty. In March 2024, police came knocking on Diddy's door, not for an invitation to another party, but for a raid.
Breaking news, the Department of Homeland Security has just confirmed to CNN that federal law enforcement agents have raided properties owned by musician and producer Sean Diddy Combs.
They were there to search his mansion, and what they found? They seized over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and a bunch of other materials that, let's just say, were likely used for unspeakable things. These things were allegedly tied to what Diddy called his freak-offs. Now, the freak-offs were exactly what they sound like. Wild, days-long parties where things apparently went way too far. Multiple women have come forward, describing how they were drugged, coerced, and even filmed without their consent during these events. Diddy would reportedly pressure women into doing things they didn't want to do, all while his inner circle stood by and watched. And we are not talking about small-time parties. These were full-blown, high-profile events with serious consequences. At first, it was Cassie, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, a singer and model who came forward and exposed Diddy.
And the allegations she's leveling against him are, frankly, truly shocking. She was his girlfriend. She says in a federal lawsuit that Combs repeatedly physically abused her and raped her when she tried to leave him. She also accuses him of forcing her to have sex with other men and luring her into a drug-fueled lifestyle that led to her struggle with addiction for years.
She was with him for years. In 2023, she decided enough was enough and filed a lawsuit against him. She accused Diddy of being violent, abusive, and manipulative throughout their relationship. According to her, Diddy was downright dangerous. She described graphic incidents where he would hit her, leaving her with black eyes and bruises. It was ugly and the details were heartbreaking. But Cassie's accusations didn't end with physical abuse. She also claimed that Diddy forced her to participate in those infamous freak-offs, all while he played puppet master, controlling everything and everyone. He allegedly even recorded these acts for his own pleasure. The way Cassie tells it, Diddy was a man who used his power to do whatever he wanted, with little to no regard for the women he hurt.
be on Hollywood.tv, dog.
And do you remember Kid Cudi? Diddy was not too thrilled when Cudi tried to make a move on Cassie. In fact, according to Cassie, Diddy had Cudi's car blown up as a little message to stay away from her. Diddy, of course, denies all of this, claiming it is just a money grab. But now the FBI has finally found all the evidence, and it is not looking good for Diddy. But it was just Cassie who came forward. She was just the first one to speak up and inspire others to do so. So what other people have come forward with allegations against Diddy? More allegations. As soon as the ink was dry on that settlement with Cassie, more women came forward with their own accusations. These new lawsuits were filed between November and December 2023, and they are not small claims. We are talking about accusations that go all the way back to 1991. That's right, over 30 years of alleged misconduct. One of the most terrifying cases came from an anonymous woman who said Diddy and another man coerced her into sexual activities. This was not a one-off story, though. Shortly after, another lawsuit was filed by Joy Dickerson Neal.
A new civil lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs accuses him of sex trafficking. Combs already faces allegations of abuse from at least 8 people. He denies those claims. Roxana Saberi has more, and some of the details are disturbing.
Back in 1991, Joy was just a college student. According to her, Diddy gave her substances, and then the situation got worse after that. She said Diddy forced himself on her and filmed the whole thing. Not only that, but he allegedly shared it with his friends, all without her consent. That's beyond sick. After that, another woman, Liza Garter, came forward and said that Diddy and another man forced themselves on her and her friend more than 30 years ago. As if that was not disturbing enough, Liza said she was only 16 at the time. 16. Let that sink in. She also claimed that Diddy choked her so hard she passed out. It is hard to even process these accusations. But this is what's on the table right now. Now, what's interesting is that all these lawsuits came out right before the New York Adult Survivors Act was about to expire. For those who don't know, this law gave victims of sexual offenses the chance to file lawsuits even after the statute of limitations had run out. Basically, it opened the door for people to finally come forward about things that happened years, even decades ago. And as you can imagine, Diddy's legal team was quick to deny everything. His spokesperson brushed off the accusations, calling them a money grab and saying the women were just after his cash. But let's be real, these stories didn't just appear out of nowhere. They have been simmering under the surface for years, and now with the Adult Survivors Act, these women finally had the legal backing to speak out. Then came December 2023, and yet another woman filed a lawsuit. This one is particularly hard to hear. She claims that back in 2003, Diddy, along with Pierre, the former president of Bad Boy Records, and another man, assaulted her when she was just 7 years old. That's right, 7 years old. According to this woman, listed as Jane Doe in court documents, she was given alcohol and other substances before the assault. She says the aftermath left her in so much pain she could barely stand. And to make it worse, she doesn't even remember how she made it home that day. Of course, Diddy denied everything. He claimed none of it was true, and his legal team doubled down, saying this was just another attempt at a payday. After that, in December 2023, Diddy took to Instagram to make a public statement. He posted, "Enough is enough." He talked about how for weeks he would sit silently while people tried to assassinate his character and destroy his reputation. He said these allegations were all from people trying to get rich quick and insisted he didn't do any of the terrible things he was being accused of. He even added that he was going to fight for his name, his family, and the truth. Okay, cool, but 2 months later in February 2024, Diddy was back in the headlines again. This time it was not another woman coming forward, but a music producer named Rodney Jones Jr., who accused Diddy of similar behavior.
Taking this album on has required so much time, months and at a time, 16 hours to 24 hours a day. Sometimes, Diddy will request certain works to be done and tell us don't go to sleep until it's done. And the truth is we'll be up for days trying to accomplish that. I've tried to get my business straight with them on this album, but the truth is they're not playing fair. They hit me on below the belt on so many situations. Just dealing with this. It's the contract that they give me and the offer that they gave me was just disgusting. The producer fee, pennies, and on top of that, these guys are trying to steal my publishing. I can't go for that, so I'm fighting back.
According to Jones, Diddy made unwanted sexual advances toward him and forced him to hire sex workers, even making him engage in activities against his will. Jones also said Diddy tried to groom him into engaging in sexual acts with another man, all under the guise that this was normal in the music industry. Naturally, Diddy's lawyer was quick to jump in and say that Rodney Jones was lying, calling the accusations pure fiction. The lawyer claimed they had overwhelming evidence to prove that these claims were false. But even with his legal team fighting back, the damage to Diddy's reputation just kept piling up. And honestly, it is hard to see how he is going to clear his name with so many accusations coming from so many different people. You would think after all this, things could not get worse for Diddy, right? Well, wrong. Diddy thought he was in the clear after his Instagram rant. But the reality is that more allegations are likely to keep surfacing. The spotlight is not going anywhere. And with every new lawsuit, it is becoming harder and harder for him to shake off these claims as mere attempts to grab some money. It is not just one or two accusations anymore. This is a full-blown legal and reputational nightmare that could define the rest of his career or what's left of it. After Diddy and his lawyers denied each one of these claims, shocking footage surfaced that proved the very thing Diddy was denying. So what did this footage show? Let's have a look. New footage.
Allegedly shows Combs assaulting then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a hallway. A now-settled lawsuit filed by Ventura claimed that she was trying to leave the hotel after a drunken Combs punched her.
On May 17, 2024, this CCTV footage went viral in which we saw Diddy physically assaulting Cassie in a hotel hallway in Los Angeles. As you can see, this is not some blurry, hard-to-make-out clip. It is pretty straightforward. The footage, which dates back to 2016, shows Diddy pushing Cassie to the ground and then kicking her multiple times while she is down. If that was not bad enough, he even tried to drag her by her shirt across the floor before throwing something at her. CNN picked up the footage and broadcasted it for the world to see. And of course, as soon as that video started circulating online, there was an immediate reaction. Fans and fellow celebrities started calling him out, dragging his name through the mud, and for good reason. This was physical abuse, caught on camera, and there was no denying what happened. The very next day, Diddy decided to do some damage control. He recorded a quick apology video, saying that he takes full responsibility for his actions in that video. He said that he was disgusted when he did it, and he was disgusted now. But was anyone really buying that apology? It felt more like he was trying to save face rather than truly owning up to what he did. Meanwhile, Cassie also made a statement, and hers hit way harder. She talked about how her life with Diddy was pure hell because of the domestic violence she endured. She said it broke her down into someone she never thought she had become. You could feel the weight of her words. This was years of abuse coming to light. Their relationship had always seemed complicated from the outside. They were together for years, and she was signed to his label. But behind closed doors, it was a living hell for her. The leaked footage confirmed what many had suspected all along, that the allegations Cassie had made in her lawsuit were true. For years, Diddy had been denying the accusations, claiming it was all lies. But this video was the proof that everything Cassie had been saying was not just some made-up story. 4 days after the video blew up, Diddy's world was turned upside down. The sleepless nights had begun, and his public image took a nosedive. His victims.
Hi, I'm Kristen McKinney from Savannah, Georgia. I won MTV and IMG's model mission for 1990.
During the same time, Crystal McKinney, a model and actress, filed yet another lawsuit against Diddy. Crystal came forward saying that back in 2023, Diddy had her under the influence of substances and forced her to perform oral sex on him in a bathroom at a New York City recording studio. That's as bad as it sounds. But this was not the end of Diddy's legal nightmares. Just 2 days after Crystal's lawsuit, another woman, April Lamro, hit him with a fresh set of accusations.
Ventura. Now, April Lampros says Diddy sexually assaulted her from the mid-90s to the early 2000s.
April's lawsuit, filed in May, detailed some seriously dark allegations. According to her, Diddy had forced himself on her not once, but 4 different times between 1995 and 2000. They had originally met in 1994 when April was a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology. What started as a romantic relationship quickly spiraled into something ugly, with April describing their time together as an abusive and coercive relationship centered around unwanted sexual acts. It gets even worse. She claims that Diddy once forced her to take pills and perform sexual acts with his then-girlfriend. The more you hear about these stories, the clearer it becomes that Diddy's behavior is predatory. After that, in July 2024, another woman came forward. This time it was Adria English, a former adult film star, who accused Diddy of grooming her into performing sexual acts at his infamous freak-offs from 2004 to 2009. Adria's lawsuit showed us Diddy's same face we have been seeing in all these other cases. She showed that Diddy, once again, had abused his power and taken advantage of vulnerable women. Of course, Diddy's lawyer denied all of the allegations. He stood firm that his client was innocent, but the lawsuits just kept piling up. Even though things went quiet for a minute, it didn't last long. In September 2024, Diddy was hit with another blow. He failed to attend a virtual court hearing for a lawsuit filed by Derek Lee Cardello Smith, who is a Michigan inmate. Derek's lawsuit was unexpected. He claimed that back in 1997 at a party in Detroit, Diddy had given him some substances without his consent, and after Derek became drowsy, Diddy allegedly took advantage of him.
To either preserve the issue of default judgment or judgment in my favor.
Diddy not showing up for the court hearing didn't do him any favors. His absence led to a default judgment, and the court ordered him to pay Derek a whopping $100 million. While this judgment was eventually set aside, the fact that Diddy keeps getting hit with these lawsuits and accusations is no coincidence. It seems like every time things quiet down, another story comes out, adding to the long list of people accusing him of seriously messed up behavior. Now, did Diddy admit doing any of these things? Absolutely not. In fact, he filed an appeal. Diddy's appeal. Diddy's lawyer filed an appeal the day after the court hearing. After that, you would think the dust might settle a little, right? Wrong. Just when it seemed like things could not get worse, Diddy found himself back in the spotlight, and not in a good way. This time it was Dawn Richard, a former singer from the girl group Danity Kane, who stepped forward with some serious accusations. Kane filed a lawsuit against him, and by this point, the lawsuits against Diddy were coming in one after the other. People were losing faith in him, and honestly, could you blame them? Dawn claimed that Diddy had touched her inappropriately several times and used disrespectful language towards her. She also added that he overworked her during her time with Danity Kane. With each lawsuit, Diddy's reputation took a bigger hit, and then came the big one, his arrest. On September 16, 2024, the hip-hop star was finally taken into custody in a Manhattan hotel room after a grand jury indictment. According to his lawyer, Diddy had been cooperating with the police and even voluntarily relocated to New York, knowing that charges were looming. His lawyer was quick to say that this was the behavior of an innocent man and that Diddy had nothing to hide and was ready to clear his name in court. But the very next day, September 17, 2024, Diddy appeared in the U.S. District Court in New York, and things only got worse from there. He was hit with a string of serious charges: racketeering, sex trafficking, and transporting people for commercial sex work. And that was not all. Prosecutors also alleged that he had been involved in kidnapping, bribery, forced labor, and a whole host of other crimes. According to the prosecutors, Diddy was the head of a criminal enterprise that preyed on women. They claimed his crew used threats and violence to force women into participating in these drug-fueled, elaborate orgies with male sex workers. And if that does not sound bad enough, these events, which Diddy called freak-offs, were carefully organized. His associates were said to have recruited commercial sex workers, booked luxury hotel suites, and handed out substances like coke, meth, and oxy to keep everyone in line. These parties were high-level operations. Diddy's staff allegedly arranged travel for the women who were brought in and even supplied intravenous fluids to help them recover from the days-long events. And if you are wondering how Diddy kept these women quiet, well, prosecutors claim he recorded everything and used the footage to silence his victims. Of course, Diddy's lawyer was quick to defend him. He declared that all of the freak-offs were consensual, but the prosecutors were not buying it. After Diddy pleaded not guilty, the court denied him bail. Why? Well, according to the prosecutors, Diddy had tried to obstruct the investigation by contacting his victims and witnesses multiple times, feeding them false stories and trying to manipulate the situation in his favor. Combine that with his history of substance use and anger issues, and the judge was not willing to take any chances. Judge Andrew L. Carter Jr., who presided over the case, made it clear that he was concerned about the nature of these crimes. They were happening behind closed doors, where the public could not see. Even when Diddy's lawyers offered to put him under the surveillance of a private security team, the judge was not convinced. He pointed out that Diddy could still use his employees to contact witnesses and interfere with the case, even under strict supervision. So for now, Diddy, also known as Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or simply Diddy, is sitting in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, awaiting his trial. But with all this chaos surrounding him, one question that is still bugging us is what Janet Jackson has to do with all of this. Janet's connection. To really understand this, we have to rewind a bit, all the way back to the 2004 Super Bowl halftime show. This is where it all started. Janet was performing alongside big names like Diddy, Nelly, Kid Rock, and Justin Timberlake. But we all know what people remember from that night, the infamous wardrobe malfunction. Justin Timberlake accidentally exposed Janet's breast on live TV. This caused a massive uproar that overshadowed just about everything else, including Diddy's performance. After that incident, Diddy kind of faded into the background at that moment, even though he was on the same stage. Years later, in a 2015 interview with Andy Cohen, Diddy admitted he was not close to Janet at the time, and they didn't even exchange numbers.
Tell the truth, have you ever...
No, I haven't. I think I would get freaked out. Okay. Yeah.
He admired her from a distance, but claimed they never really kept in touch. Then a few years later, Diddy opened up about how he felt after the whole Super Bowl debacle. He was still mad that his performance was overshadowed by the controversy. But in typical Diddy fashion, he said he was ready to move on and let bygones be bygones. Despite this, as the years passed, it became clear that Janet and Diddy did eventually get closer. And this closeness is part of what brings us to today. They had a few public interactions over the years, most notably during the 2022 Billboard Music Awards. In a video from backstage, you can see Diddy holding Janet's hand, kissing it, and gushing over her. This interaction made it pretty clear he had a lot of admiration for her. Janet made a surprise appearance that night to present an award to Mary J. Blige, another person who has had a long, close friendship with Diddy. This moment started rumors about their relationship and whether Janet knew more about Diddy's private life than she let on. But then things started to get really complicated. Rumors began circulating that Mary J. Blige, who was friends with both Janet and Diddy, might have known about the darker side of Diddy's life, like his alleged abuses and misdeeds. Some speculated that Mary could have even passed on some of this knowledge to Janet, making Janet more aware of Diddy's shady behavior. These rumors were, of course, just that, rumors. But where there is smoke, there is often fire, and people started to question if Janet really didn't know what was going on. Then came November 2023. Janet Jackson and supermodel Naomi Campbell attended Diddy's 54th birthday party in London. The event doubled as a launch for Diddy's new album, and Janet shared some photos of the celebration on Instagram. It all seemed normal until shortly after, Cassie came forward with her bombshell lawsuit against Diddy, accusing him of a decade-long pattern of abuse and violence. That's when things shifted. Suddenly, Janet and Naomi were deleting those same party photos from their social media accounts, trying to distance themselves from Diddy as quickly as possible. People immediately started speculating, why delete the photos? Was it because they didn't want to be associated with Diddy after the accusations came out? Or was it because they knew more than they were letting on? While there is no solid proof that either Janet or Naomi had any involvement in Diddy's actions, The timing of those deleted photos sure raised some eyebrows. Naomi Campbell, by the way, was not a stranger to controversy herself. She had been previously linked to Jeffrey Epstein's infamous circle, which only made things worse when people started questioning her ties to Diddy. There were even rumors that Naomi might have played a role in helping Diddy recruit women for his infamous parties. As for Janet, her name has also been thrown around in some wild theories. Some people have even tried to link her to Diddy's alleged crimes because of her late brother, Michael Jackson. Michael, as you probably remember, faced his own share of troubling accusations involving underage boys. Janet always stood by her brother, defending him against those allegations, even when others in her family, like LaToya Jackson, hinted that some of the accusations might be true. This led some people to wonder if Janet was willing to defend Michael, despite the serious accusations against him. Could she be turning a blind eye to Diddy's actions too? Adding to the conspiracy, there is the connection between Michael Jackson and Diddy through Muhammad, Michael's former head of security who later became Diddy's security chief. It is a small world, right? This doesn't necessarily mean Janet had any direct involvement in Diddy's activities, but people are connecting the dots in all kinds of ways. Then there is the whole internet culture of deleting photos when things go wrong. It is not just Janet and Naomi who did it. On September 22, 2024, Usher wiped 7,000 photos from his social media, and Pink deleted 4,000. Why do celebrities think deleting photos will erase the past? The internet never forgets. And in this case, deleting those photos only increased the rumors, making people more suspicious than ever. So what do you think? Did Janet really know about Diddy's questionable habits, or has she been caught in this mess without any fault? Share your opinions with us in the comments below. If you want more shocking updates, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, because we have got a lot more of this. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.